Let me call the Berkeley City Planning Commission to order for its regular meeting of August the 26th, 2014. Would you all please rise for the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have a roll call, please?
Martin Smith,
Here.
Dean Smith,
Here.
Richardson,
Here.
Murad,
Here.
Morrell,
Here.
Buckler, Shadle, here, Pop, Barnett.
Present. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Commissioner Richardson, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Sadel. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Dean Smith,
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Shadle. Yes. Martin Smith,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes. Now I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the July the 22nd, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Muir. Is there a second?
A second.
Martin Smith seconds it. Any discussion on the minutes?
Mr. Chairman,
Uh-oh.
Mr. Martin Smith.
page 4, the last paragraph prior to the move. Plan Commission reiterated parking need to comply. I guess it says that's true, but I think it was a little more than that. We said the plan as presented does not comply with the Berkeley ordinance. And so it really says that, but I wanted to make it a point that instead of just saying it needs to, the plan that was presented did not comply. And I think that we discussed that quite a bit.
Okay,
Be a
so would
little
you like to say the
stronger
planning
language.
commission reiterated that the parking site plan did not comply?
Did not comply. A little stronger language,
Okay.
for what it's worth.
That it?
That's it?
Then I guess I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Shadle,
Yes.
Dean Smith,
Yes.
Martin Smith.
Yep.
Richardson,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes. That done. Any communications?
You have a few things. You've got letter from a resident on Oxford. You have Downtown Development Authority minutes. And I know I sent it electronically, but I had heard some noise that folks couldn't open it. So you've got the Berkley Robina project that was done in concert with the Michigan Municipal League. You have their findings, and then you have the Woodward Avenue Rapid Transit Alternatives Analysis Locally Preferred Alternative. That's a mouthful. Done by Parsons Brinkerhoff, and this is the draft
Okay.
for your reading pleasure.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for citizens' comments. Any citizens who would care to address the Planning Commission on any topic not on our agenda may step up to the microphone at this time and state your name and city of residence, and you may have the microphone. Citizens will have an opportunity to participate in discussion items as we move through our agenda this evening. So we'll let us proceed, I guess, with item number 1.
Item number 1 is special land use SU 0314 Blarney Stove Pub, 27253 Woodward, southwest corner of Woodward and Columbia, is requesting special approval for a sidewalk cafe in accordance with Berkeley City Code, Chapter 106, Street Sidewalks and Other Public Places, Article 2, Obstruction, Section 10642, Outdoor Seating, Item B, Sidewalk Cafes. Cafe seating within the public right-of-way shall be subject to the standards and review procedures set forth in Chapter 138 zoning, Article 5 District Regulations, Division 7 Local Business District, Section 138-408 Special Uses. Cafe seating within the public right-of-way shall be prohibited between November 1st and March 31st. Cafe seating shall be subject to an annual renewal process. The Planning Commission held a public hearing last month and postponed it, asking the applicant to look at perhaps widening the sidewalk to make it less congested. I did speak with the business owner yesterday. She called. She has spoken with contractors. She did not make contact with MDOT as of yet, but based upon the conversation with contractors, it was sounding very cost prohibitive and not really what they were interested in pursuing, and she was skeptical that MDOT would be in favor of increasing the sidewalk, so she had not called them. And at this point, I believe unless the Planning Commission's willing to approve what was submitted or recommend approval for what was submitted, she would be looking at just withdrawing the application.
What's the desire of the planning commission?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dean Smith.
if the applicant would choose to withdraw the application, I think that would be much better than us rejecting it.
Okay.
So I would
You want to make a
make
recommendation?
a recommendation to council that we accept the applicant's withdrawal of the application.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Rea. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murad, or Mr. Morrell?
I must admit I'm disappointed. I was kind of hoping that they would come back with a plan, because I do think it's an okay idea.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate the way the ramp turned out
Yeah.
on their little corner. It's such a strange, it was interesting watching people negotiating it during the Dream Cruise on Saturday.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Richard?
it really goes without saying, but sometimes, as Commissioner Smith noted a few minutes ago, it's worth making sure that the minutes accurately reflect our sentiment with regard to the applicant and the application. And I just wanted to make a note that obviously this is without prejudice to their ability to come forward with a new application should they so choose. Again, that's evident, but I just thought the minute should reflect that we noted that.
Okay. Makers agree to all that?
Oh, definitely.
Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Murad,
Yes.
Dean Smith,
Yes.
Shadle,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Pop. Richardson,
Yes.
Martin Smith,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is site plan review SP 0614 Abro Design Group for Lugo Properties, 1036 Eaton, north side of Eaton, between Woodward and Stanford, is requesting site plan approval for the construction of a parking lot. As I indicated in my report to you, I would recommend that this be referred back to staff. I had suggested November. Given the rezonings that were denied by city council, and the residents' concerns, and the fact that Charter One Bank, even though they have withdrawn the joint parking agreement, never seemed to get used, which is a bit of a puzzlement. And we're still working on that, but then it rained on August 11th, so things got into a different mode at City Hall. But we are back on track working on this. But we have met with, separately with the T-Mobile owner and the owner of Vincetta Garage. And the thought is, as I indicated, is the properties on Eaton, rather than having them split so that they front Eaton, split them so that they front on the alley, and each property owner get the same portion that they own now, but they would be able to utilize the commercial alley for their commercial business and not the residential side street. And it seems to be a wash as far as parking spots go. It'll be about the same from just a really quick rustic sketch that I did. So both property owners are in favor of this. I think I've approached the city attorney and said what I think needs to happen first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so forth, and make sure that the stars all line up the right way. And again, it's been very busy at the city and in the department, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of the meeting. But I did not have a chance to follow up with him, but I want to make sure that the city's interest and the residents' interest and all of the surrounding business owners' interests are represented in this as well, and that we make sure that we're moving toward the best possible solution. And we don't go ahead and do certain things and then have people not go forward with what was intended. So in lieu of that, I don't want to penalize this particular business owner or applicant because they did pay for a site plan approval, and I'm hoping it will be a different site plan come November. But at this point, that's why I would suggest referring it back to staff.
Is there a motion to refer this back to staff to bring it back? Well, we want to schedule it for November? Do we want to put it to November?
I think you have to pick a date.
Okay,
in the
so let's
motion.
do November. November, I don't know what to know a date.
November meeting.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dean Smith,
I would move that we
defer it to,
defer this to our November meeting.
okay.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dean Smith made the motion, Mr. Morel seconded it. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Dean Smith?
By way of expectations for the Planning Commission, this is a question for Amy. Will we get a joint application from two property owners? Or what will it look like when it comes our way, or is that something to be determined?
Well, the intent would be that the city's intent at this point, and again, we haven't gotten to the site plan point, we've sort of gotten into.
This is kind of like making sausage?
Yes, it very much is.
Yeah.
Yes, good analogy,
So I think we ought to just leave it.
yes.
Good idea.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Are the discussions taking place, do they involve the third lot that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's one of the points with the city attorney is a conditional rezoning so that if, this was going to work, I think it has to include that lot to make it really worthwhile. But obviously, we don't want to go and do all of this if that's not going to end up happening. So it's a balance. We just want to make sure we've got.
So ideally, in November, we will be contemplating a rezoning request with a site plan sometime after that.
I'm.
We don't know.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
I said ideally.
Ideally.
For a reason.
Okay.
I'm not a sausage maker.
Nor am I.
Any other discussion? Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Shadle,
Yes.
Dean Smith,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Martin Smith.
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes. Okay, item number 3. Moving right
Special-
along.
Yeah, we are. Special land use, and I apologize for the typo. It is SU 0414. Eric Heiderer for Bigby Coffee, 3600 12 Mile, northwest corner of Oakshire and 12 Mile, is requesting special approval for outdoor dining in accordance with Berkley City Code, Article 5, District Regulations, Division 12, 12 Mile District, Section 138, 458, Special Uses, Open-air business uses, when developed as uses accessory to primary uses and structures in the 12-mile districts are permitted as follows. Outdoor seating areas for restaurants or other food-serving establishments. Notices were sent, and
Is the petitioner here? Would you step up to the microphone, please? State your name. city,
Good evening, Eric Heider, representing Edward Medco, the owner of Bigby Coffee. And we're just proposing some outdoor seating, some metal chairs and some tables for the sidewalk for the coffee shop. No umbrellas, no nothing, no gates, no fencing, just some outdoor seating for when it's warm.
you do have a copy. I received that today, a photograph, and I couldn't figure out how to print it in color. I apologize, but you have a nice black and white rendering there.
It'll be 4 tables at the most, 24-inch wide, because it's a small area, and the sidewalk is only 9.5 feet, so we're just putting the tables closer to the building, so there's still walkway for all the patrons and customers coming up in front.
Questions for the applicant? I
Mr.
have
Chairman.
to have a special
Yeah.
hearing, right?
Yeah, you have to have
Yeah.
a public hearing first, right?
I didn't know whether anybody had any questions before I opened the public hearing.
Well, I do have a question or a comment.
Go ahead, mister.
Okay.
Already go.
Of all the outside cafe seating that we've had over the years here, this is probably the most unobtrusive to any residential neighbors, and that's fine.
Panini Press is pretty. Panini Press is in
Oh, okay.
Otter City.
I said probably, almost. But thank you. One comment, the drawing shows one table with 3 seats, and I know that's not set in stone, with a 5-foot dimension to the curb. The only issue I would have with that is that, I walked by there and cars do overhang about 2 feet over the curb, so that might get kind of narrow. You might not be able to fit.
And that's fine, and we have no problem going to 2
I'm
seats
sure.
on all of them, I
Right.
have no problem.
The rest, other than that being 9.5 feet, whatever it is, there's plenty of space, and it's not like it's heavily trafficked with pedestrians or anything. So I just want to make a point that there is the car overhang, so they may not be able to have the
Correct.
3 top. Yeah. Okay, that was all I had to say.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Dean
Just a question related to Commissioner Smith's comment. My thought was that you're now gonna have 3 tables with 2 chairs and 1 table with 1 chair that a wheelchair can roll up to and make it 2. Is that what this is gonna look like?
Yes, relatively. The dotted line for some of the tables, the 32 by 48, represents the
Right,
handicap.
that's for the
Yes.
the wheelchair. So what we'll see as we walk by is it'll look like there's a missing chair, but there'll
Correct.
be a,
Yes,
handicap accessible signage.
correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Murray?
Like to see some sort of trash receptacle out here. That way
Okay.
people don't have to go back in to dispose of their used up cups.
We'll agree to that.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, this time I'll open up the public hearing. Any citizen who would care to comment on this special use, they may step up to the microphone. State your name, city of residence. Seeing no one stepping up to the microphone to make any comments of any sort, I will close the public hearing. What's the desire of the planning commission?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Machado, go ahead.
Actually, I do have an additional comment here or question for the petitioner. The music, I know you have music on the interior. Is there
No
currently
speakers.
speakers outside?
No, there's no current speakers, and there will not be any current speakers.
There's no plan for such.
Mr. Martin Smith?
All I was gonna say is I was gonna make a motion to,
Okay. You gonna make a motion? Go ahead.
to approve special land use SU 04-14.
Yeah, sorry.
This goes to council, right?
It does.
Yeah, okay, to recommend approval to council.
Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Richardson. Discussion on the motion.
The
Mr.
only
Chairman?
item would be the trash receptacle that Mr. Murad
Okay.
indicated.
And the, no speakers.
I have one question too.
Okay. let's-
Do you have any, are you going to add any exterior lighting?
No, not more than what's already there.
What are your current hours of operation?
Offhand, I don't know. Normal business hours for a Big B Coffee, probably 7 o'clock in the morning to about 8, 9 o'clock at night, at the very most, I believe. I don't know exactly, but within that time frame.
Okay, do you think the outdoor area will be open during the entire business day, at least in the summertime?
During the summer, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Well, you had a comment.
I had just the one comment that I'd like to add into the motion that there won't be any speakers.
Okay.
I did, and then this generated another comment in that they open at least 6:30. I've had coffee there on my way to work, and I'm out the door at 6:25, and I have no problem stopping there. So,
Okay.
just to let you give you a feel.
All right. Any other questions, comments? You've got what all the,
Trash can, no outside speakers.
okay. You don't want to limit hours out there, okay? All right, I'll take a roll call vote.
Heather will do that.
Morel.
Yes.
Pop. Yes. Martin Smith.
Yes.
Shadle.
Yes.
Dean Smith.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Murad.
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes. There you.
Thank you.
But it'll go before council. I assume it'll go before the next council meeting, September, whatever.
Third Monday. I'll call you.
Okay.
She'll call it, she'll let you know. And for their approval, if it gets their approval, you'll be on your way. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Item number 4.
Site plan review SP 0714, Joe Novitsky for Bob Bronstein, 3052 12 Mile, north side of 12 Mile between Robina and Griffith. He is requesting site plan approval for a facade change. You didn't have the DPW report in your packet. You have it before you now. Got it yesterday.
Okay. Use the podium.
Use
Use the
the
podium.
lectern.
Use the lectern, podium, whatever. Okay. Okay, who's going first?
Joe Novitsky, architect with Mr. Bronstein here. Mr. Chairman, distinguished PC members and staff, would like to help and answer any of the questions that you have. But basically, we're just trying to take the existing Hiller's Market and turn it into a new family restaurant with success Bob's had across the street at 24 Seconds. He feels this will be a perfect opportunity for him to continue working in this town and I think give us something that's worth accepting. Bob, you want to walk him through?
Like Joe said, I currently own 24 Seconds. We've been in business almost 9 years now, and business has never been better. And this opportunity came across me, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity for another. It's an Irish pub, and I think Berkley is a great town. I think Berkley can support this, and it's gonna. We're gonna renovate Hiller's. It's gonna bring more jobs to the town, more people to the city of Berkley. We're hoping to get some more foot traffic in the city as well.
You want us to go, or you have anything more to say, Joe?
Just really briefly.
Go ahead, Joe.
We originally were going to put a cooler on the back of the building. And we have elected at this point not to add this piece here. It's basically a couple of reasons. It would be built on top of the existing sewer, and we don't want to put any exterior additions on the building because of the existing utilities that would be really mired. We'd have to move the electrical, we'd have to build on top of an existing structure, and we don't want to. So we moved everything inside, and with your permission, I would just like to distribute the minor change that we've
Okay.
incorporated with that.
You may do that.
Thank you.
Just remind you on the interior.
Thank you.
As we pushed the coolers to where the bathrooms were, we reconfigured the place. But the outside, the overhead door, open area is still there. The dining area remained the same. We flipped the bar to the other side. I think it's a more welcoming account.
You don't have to move the electrical either, do you?
No.
So I looked at that and I
I
said,
know.
that was the first thing I saw in my eyes. I said, oh my goodness, you gotta
I
move
know.
all the electrical.
It was really a difficult thing for us to do.
So it's just this little square?
That's
Oh,
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that it used to be filled in there. We
Okay.
took it off.
Got it.
We put the coolers here and flipped the bathroom.
I got it. Thank you.
Is that all you have to say?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to keep it brief, but I could go on for hours.
I know you could. If I give you the,
How much you want me to talk
I could have you do a full performance half the evening. Okay, so this is,
The materials, here's the materials, the stone base and the warm brick, it's a model brick will be placed on the restaurant. And we have a more severe but a deeper red brick on the two white boxes over here. Aluminum and stone, black stone at the base, this rusticated stone here. These doors open up, you'll see in the plan, it's just an exterior, interior, three-season room where they can actually turn off the air conditioners for those few weeks and periods of time and literally open it up and just let this thing be, let the air blow through. I don't know how long that's gonna happen or how often, but it works quite well in some locations here, especially in Ferndale. They have a couple of them. And they've been very successful for these guys. We tried to make a little red color next to the taupe and the blue and give an element here that'll break from the brick and the residual block that Sorolla owns. But, we hope it confronts the city and gives the city a face where once there was none.
you're gonna pull off, I take it you're gonna pull off the front of the existing Hillers
Correct.
in order to get your proper setbacks to the right of way to the front sidewalk.
Correct. If you go into the building, it's got that yellow.
You gotta go to the mic, nobody can hear you.
Yeah, use the mic. I'm gonna
The existing masonry will all come down. We're not
Okay.
extending anything into the right-of-way. It's well within the existing fabric now. It's just that spotted yellow and brown brick that's up there now is so dated. It doesn't seem to me to have a historical relevance worth keeping. So,
Comments from the planning commission?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dean Smith?
first, I think that the rendition is what do you call, modest improvement from what's there right now. The idea of having some density with, eating establishments is pretty much what we've been looking for in terms of master plan for the city and get the foot traffic. For the two tenant spaces on the west side of the building, any idea what your ideal neighbors might look like, Mr. Bronstein?
We don't own the property yet, but we've actually been getting some inquiries already about the property. Nothing exactly comes to mind yet, but what I'd like to see is more foot traffic in downtown Berkeley. So something, I don't know, a retail, something in the retail category, just to get walking traffic so people can come to. I always kind of like compare Berkeley to like a smaller, like Royal Oak, Ferndale, and people are kind of straying away from Royal Oak now. There's a lot of empty businesses in Royal Oak now. So we need more foot traffic in this town. People can come to Berkeley instead of, right now, 24 Seconds is a destination spot. I want Berkeley to be a destination spot where they can come park their cars and they have options. 24 Seconds, Patrick J's, Berkeley Front, and then whatever other retail places we have in downtown Berkeley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments?
There you go.
Mr. Murad?
Are your intentions for those two tenant spaces to be separate?
We're open to that.
Okay.
It's the way it's built. It's just because there's a wall in between, a load-bearing wall in between, so it'd kind of be difficult to have one tenant unless it's maybe an office space. But we're really trying to stray away from office space because, like I said, we want retail. So we're probably looking more along the lines of two.
Because if you do split it, you're gonna need restrooms in both,
Right,
and you're
yeah.
gonna need an exterior egress too. So, just keep that in mind.
Yes.
I see that there's a basement space along the rear.
Mm-hmm.
What's the planned use for that?
Not much, really. Maybe just a little storage from extra things. We're really not putting much down there.
Okay.
Chair,
Mr. Richardson?
I have to assume that in your discussions with the planning commission, you've gone over your parking requirements and let me
No.
backtrack. You
no.
get credit for that? They get
Yep.
credit for this?
Municipal
Okay.
credit there.
What's the anticipated capacity of the new restaurant?
Yeah, there's about 100 and, on the drawing, there's about 150 seats.
Oh,
I
including
believe. The bar, yeah. The bar and seating is 150 seats, so I'm guessing in that area.
Okay. Would that be roughly the same as 24 seconds?
It's a little bigger than 24. 24 seconds capacity is just under 100 on the lower level, the same thing on the upper level on the deck. But you're talking about 150 roughly.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Dean Smith, or Mr. Martin Smith?
Excuse me. Amy had a question or an item on her write-up regarding a dumpster. And it's going in this alcove behind the eastern of the two.
Yeah, there's already an alcove there. I think there's a dumpster there already.
I think there is,
Yeah, we wouldn't close it, just so it's.
Okay, that was it. You put an enclosure in there?
Oh,
now
yeah.
Okay. And is there a grease container, a grease waste container back there somewhere also?
There will be,
probably?
yeah, if it's gonna be enclosed, there'll be a grease container in there as well.
Okay. And it looks like you're wiping out most of the second floor. And there's I take one little office up there.
Yeah, we just needed that space mostly for the makeup air unit for the kitchen.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that would make sense. Okay. Yeah, I counted 182 seats on the previous plan, so you lost pretty much lost the party room. So about 150 might be about right, plus whatever employees you have. Or whatever.
I just counted 128.
Okay.
Going on those booths being 4-person.
Yeah. I had a big question here for colors, but that's been established already, so, the light fixtures, what kind, these are obviously decorative light fixtures. I take it's not gonna be a high wattage of any sort, just a little
Interior, exterior?
exterior, the light fixtures on the,
Sconce lights, they won't be over 16 watts probably. The overhead lights will be a little bit brighter than that, the ones on top. But,
Okay.
no, there's no intensity there.
okay.
Thank you.
Now, there's another comment about, the sill height and railing for liquor control. I don't know much about how the liquor control people work. Is there there was a concern?
Yeah, and I had
staff
spoken
a concern?
with Mr. Novitzy about it. There's a requirement, just like with Blarney Stone, they had to have a fence around
Right.
their area. But we have an 18-inch sill, and Mr. Novitzy had indicated that, that might be an issue, so they might end up in the inside putting a
metal
rail.
railing or something.
And I was just, because I do this playing, devil's advocate, would it be
Right.
a more elegant solution to just bring the sill height up to that? If the Liquor Control Commission says you gotta have this rather than have a bar, just bring the sill height up to that level.
Yeah, either
I didn't
way.
wanna mess with your
Either way.
design. That
Yeah.
was just,
Metal might even be easier, might be better, just to keep the opaque wall surface down if you came up with a metal railing of some sort, but that's for them to decide.
okay, I'm
that's
just
up
bringing
to
it
them.
up.
Yeah, I think it's a great, we've talked for years and years, and I've been up here for years and years, we've talked about getting people to walk Berkeley. There's a couple times a year where it's nice to see people out on 12 Mile, and the rest of it, you can pretty much shoot a cannon down the sidewalk and not hit anything. So this is probably a good step in that direction. And thank you for taking the move and the risk that you obviously take to do this. So good. I think we generally welcome this project.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody? What's the desire of the planning commission? Don't all speak at once.
What's that?
What's the desire of the
Oh.
planning commission?
Mr. Chairman. I was folding my sheets here, I wasn't really listening. First things first, I would recommend approval for site plan.
You're gonna make a motion then?
I will make a motion to approve site plan SP 0714.
You wanna put anything on it?
The enclosure for the dumpster and the grease container in the back. And we want to want to acknowledge the amended sheet without the addition
Okay.
that we received today. I don't know if there's anything else that I failed to include. If anybody else
Chairman?
has a.
Mr. Morrow.
Lacking actual product literature, do you want to make a comment about lighting meeting the terms of our ordinance?
Sure, that's true. Thank you. Well put.
Anything else? Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Murray. Discussion on the motion.
I think we did.
Okay.
Ready?
Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Richardson,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Dean Smith,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Shadle,
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Martin Smith,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes. Good
Good
luck.
luck.
I'm glad to finally see something hit that spot. A front door on 12 Mile. 3 front doors.
Be nice if we could reduce the traffic noise.
People love traffic noise.
They do. Well, I'm getting deafer and deafer,
Oh.
so maybe.
Yeah.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is discussion regarding a request for proposal in regard to a residential form-based code. You may recall, this was something when I was at the Michigan Planning Conference last fall in Kalamazoo. There was a session with regard to, we have a lot of single-family, not Berkeley and specifically, but Michigan in general has an awful lot of single-family housing, and that's not really what they're finding the families of the future necessarily want. And Berkeley, we have a variety of housing types, but I think we could have more, but there's a way to make it fit into our residential neighborhood so it doesn't end up looking odd, or it doesn't end up becoming a problem or something that nobody wants to live next door to. This is something I did speak before the budget was, when I was working on the budget for last year. I had questioned how much such a thing would cost and got some idea of price. It was approved by council to go ahead with this, and so several months ago, I drafted a request for proposal for a residential form-based code to have a planning firm develop this with a wide variety of infill housing types that would be permitted. And I drafted this, and so I'm not sure how you want to review this, I know when we did the master plan, we had interviews and all of that. I don't know if that's what you want to do or how you want to handle it. So feel free to gently critique, constructive criticism,
I
welcome.
thought it was very well written. I just got down to all the question marks in the review process of
Yeah.
how we would do the review. And I would assume that most of that review would probably be through us. The question, I guess we would be really looking at this juncture at hiring a firm to
Yeah.
perform this service.
Yes.
So my thinking is we would review it, and then, I don't know how many applicants you're going to get on it, so I guess that's the
3, maybe?
three, 4.
I'm thinking 3 or 4.
3 or
Yeah,
4.
3.
Then I would just, if we get 3, then I would just bring the 3 in for an interview with us and talk to them, and
Well, do you want to have, so I'm going to ask them, you're each going to get a proposal.
Yep.
And then I think you can review it at that point, and then if you decide one is head and shoulders above the rest,
we could do
then-
it that way if you think
So-
if that would be appropriate, we could do it that way.
Okay, so the PC is going to review the proposals and may conduct interviews.
Yeah. And then bring in whoever we think is,
And then you guys would make your recommendation to city council
Yep.
to move forward with it. Okay, does that sound good? Nobody else is
That
talking.
was my only thing. Otherwise, I thought it was a great thing. I think it's a great idea. Of course, I'd like to do all of the code in form-based, but let's
Baby
start here.
steps, baby
Let's
steps.
take baby steps and do this part first. Is everybody on the planning commission familiar what a form-based code is?
No.
No. Haha.
Go. So, ordinances, ours is kind of a hybrid. But if you looked at a traditional zoning ordinance from the 1970s, it would say it would be really heavy into what uses, you know, if you were looking at a pie chart. 70% of it would be the uses that were allowed in that district. Not so much on what the buildings ought to look like. And I think a really great pictorial is if you look at Ford Road in Canton, or Big Beaver Road. If you look at a zoning map, that's red. And downtown Royal Oak is red too, or downtown Northville. So very different character. And a form-based code kind of gets after, it's more 70% what the building's gonna look like. And it has uses. I mean, there's certain things you don't wanna have, or certain uses you wanna have in limited quantities. So it's not completely throwing out the uses, but it's heavier into what the building is going to look like, rather than what use is in the cinder block building.
It's usually a lot of talking about in how to design and porches and yes, it's really, I think. the
It's more
way to
about the
go.
characteristics of the building,
Characteristic of the building and
Right.
the
which is the
community.
form-based.
Right.
you know.
Community.
Yeah, and the setbacks are very well defined.
Yep.
What happens at certain road widths and things like that.
And the intent with this specifically, because I was talking about commercial, so I sort of used a poor example, but the session that I had gone to looked at, you know, the fact that we're going to have, you know, older Americans and different family types, and not everybody wants, although with the building going on here, you wouldn't know that. When I talk to the developers, you know, not everybody wants a big single-family home or even a medium-sized single-family home. They want to have variety, and I think that that would be a very good thing for Berkeley to have. But, you know, as I said in this, you know, our apartments, the last apartment buildings were built in the 60s and the 1980s, and the 2 families and 3 families we have are older than that. And that's appealing to, you know, a growing segment of the population. They want to have, but they don't want to have something that was built in 1970. They want something that's new and are willing to pay a certain amount for it, but they don't want to have the upkeep of a single-family home. And so I think if we can allow it in single-family districts and that variety of housing types, I think that's going to make for a richer community.
Yeah, I think townhomes or something like that would have been ideal on Oakshire when they sold the school, the old Oxford School. I think that would have been perfect, townhomes, right along that stretch.
Yep.
Parking in the back and.
It'd have been cool.
It would have been, it would have been interesting to see a variety of proposals, wouldn't it? And see
Yep.
whether
Yeah,
it was a
absolutely.
reuse of where the school building was. That was something I really wanted to see, was
Right.
that footprint.
Yep.
And the playground and everything preserved, and just that existing footprint, because I like the idea of being able to see all the way across the park.
Yep.
So, but it would have been interesting to
Yeah.
have those kinds of discussions.
But when they sold all that land, it would have been ideal, I think, to put a bunch of townhomes up and maybe at occasions put a drive into the back, and that's where the residents would have their garages and parking and.
I don't know what the residents would have said about that, but it would have been, again, good discussions to have. And if
Yeah.
we had a code that said, you know, you can have it, and it has to look like this and this and this, then
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dean Smith?
kind of disappointed I won't be part of that discussion, but one of the biggest problems or issues that comes up with adopting form-based codes is that they can be too restrictive, and you're going to define what each building looks like in terms of color, height, shape, and you wind up eliminating anybody's chance for creativity or just, you know, diversity. And there's one community on the west side that does do form-based, and it looks like it's a development rather than a city that has, you know, a series of individual buildings with some character. So in adopting the form-based code, one has to be really careful not to make it too restrictive.
Right.
Agreed.
I would agree with you on that.
Another comment, as someone who deals with ordinances all the time, and we're really talking ordinance, not code, I guess, aren't we? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Same thing. Code of ordinances.
Okay. Got me. They're difficult, a good ordinance is difficult to read, and then you throw it online, it's extremely difficult to read. We're dealing with some form-based ordinances right now, and this isn't for us, this is just another thing to be careful of and make sure we talk to the applicant, who's awarded. There's some communities, they're very pretty documents, they have colors and diagrams and pictures and everything. They are impossible to read online. You got one screen and you're constantly flipping around,
Okay.
and it's very, very difficult to read online. If you have a
Right,
book in
and-
front of you, it's easier, or the pages. We end up printing them out and wasting paper, and, it just defeats the purpose, but that's something for them, not for us. But it's a very frustrating, I don't know about you folks that deal with them, but it's an extremely frustrating process.
Well, we don't want that.
No,
So that's
we
good to
don't.
know.
No.
Okay,
Well,
good.
it did not help these communities, other than being a bunch of pretty pictures.
Right, well, we don't want that. We want this
Not
to,
want
we want
that.
people to do this. We want it
Yep.
to be used.
Not get frustrated and go elsewhere.
And we want, I think to Commissioner Dean Smith's point, there's a great book called The Pattern Language, and it talks about sort of these universal truths, and it doesn't matter if it's a modern with a capital M or a Gothic building, there are certain things that a good building has in common, the proportion and that sort of thing. And I think you could do all of that. You could, and we see that in the community now. You have modern buildings and not so modern buildings, and they all work together very well.
Can we make a pattern language part of our ordinance?
Just want to adopt the whole thing by reference?
Not the whole thing.
All 800 pages. There's another book that's about this big. It's called Common Sense Architecture, which is about the same, but it's only about that big.
Really? I'm
That's
familiar
because
with
architects
that
only have
one.
this much common sense.
That's right.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Richardson.
I guess in trying to familiarize myself with this concept, I've been in or through many communities that seem to have more of a housing variety than Berkeley does. And it's hard for me to envision radical changes in the look of our community coming out of this. It seems to me that modern multifamily housing can be so home-like or so architecturally distinct that it's difficult to, I mean, you have to think a little bit to know that it's really multifamily and not just some big, big single-family house. There's, when we bandy about terms like townhomes and multifamily, I mean, we do kind of picture cookie-cutter type buildings, but I don't think it really has to be like that. I don't think there's anything inevitable about it being like that. So I think this will be an interesting exploration for us.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Okay, so they're gonna submit that many proposals, and we'll go through and look at them at a work session, perhaps.
Yeah, I think
And
we would do
then-
a work session for
And then
that.
decide if you want to, have a tie-breaking interview and then recommend to city council.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I will draft that up and get it going when I get a moment, so.
So now I will entertain any citizens' comments. Any citizen who would care to address the planning commission at this point in time, they may step up to the microphone again. And I see no citizens rushing to the microphone, so we'll move on to liaison reports. Well, Mr. Dean Smith, since this is your last meeting for a little while, has the ZBA anything?
Mr. Chair, the ZBA had intended to meet, and then it rained. It was a biblical rain, which I was able to make it to the meeting, and only to find that it was canceled.
Huh?
Due to,
Water?
yes,
Flooded City
amazing.
Hall, yeah.
And tonight, it was gonna rain, so I drove my truck so I'd have ground clearance. So the ZBA will meet early September. Was that 8
The
September 8th?
9th.
September
We decided
9th.
to meet,
Okay.
yeah.
And they will cover the issue that was going to be covered on the rain-out day.
Let me ask you this question, since I know you are great on a bicycle. Did you ride your bicycle down here in the rain?
No.
That day, no, I made the unfortunate choice of driving my, the 1999 Ford Escort that I bought for my daughters when they were in high school. I can tell you that because it has rust holes in the floor,
Yeah.
it doesn't float, it just accepts water, so.
Very interesting.
But the bicycle would have been more convenient, but at the way it was, the rain was coming down,
Mhm.
my hair would have been worse than usual.
Okay, thank you. Chamber?
Chamber, unfortunately, due to the aftermath of the flood, I did not make it to the chamber meeting because I was still cleaning out my basement. So, but I did attend the pub crawl. It was largest crowd they've had. I think they said about 140 people.
Good, excellent. That's good.
So it was a good night. Yeah.
So the flood may have encouraged thirst.
Yes, I think it made a lot of people wanting to get out of their
There were a few
houses
people who
and-
needed a drink.
and not think about their flooded basements. So, yeah.
Ms. Pop, anything on the DDA you care to comment on?
I got there. They had postponed the first meeting.
Okay.
That one, there wasn't a quorum, so
Okay.
it met last Wednesday instead. And it was not terribly exciting. Talked about the pub crawl, they talked about plans at Hiller's briefly. And we got, Jane explained why there were so many things left from the flood on the street, that it took forever before things were picked up. And it was because of how you have to put it someplace, and everybody was putting everything in the same place. And it didn't work. And I never had time to write my report, so
Okay.
I'm just kind of
Winging it.
winging. And there wasn't a lot of people there to give us reports. There was no report from beautification or anything. And then we had 2 forms budget for this year that we're gonna be following, was given to everybody.
Okay.
So, that's that.
Environmental?
Environmental was scheduled for August 13th. We were unable to muster a quorum. Yours truly was there, though. Had an interesting meeting with myself. I regret not going to the pub crawl. I intended to, but by the time the pub crawl came, I was only fit to crawl into bed, not to the pub, so I'm sorry about that. So I have nothing further to report from environmental.
Parks and Rec, I guess. Nothing.
No, Mr. Chairman, I haven't been there for years, Mr. Chairman. I think you want me to go back.
I don't know what you meant, why you would think that. but
I know, I was there for a while. It seems like it. They are looking for somebody. I'm just not able to do it, so.
Neither am I.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Eric
That
took
was,
over.
I was on it before you were, and then I
Eric.
got involved with the building enclosure council.
Eric, is not.
I don't remember. Once a month.
City council meeting met, and we did have on the agenda the, you think I was,
Coco Fairfields.
Coco Fairfields, which was passed without any real discussion on it. So that was pretty much what was on that. And then they had a work session, but I didn't stay for all the work sessions, so. That was pretty much anything that involved the planning commission. There was a appointment temporary for you, and I don't
Yep.
know how you want to address any of that?
They appointed somebody for a year, with the understanding it would, it was a year appointment, a 1 year long period appointment is my understanding. So and I'm at a loss for his name, the new person will be here next month, and I haven't called the new person yet, but I will.
Will they be covering ZBA?
No, just
No.
planning.
That's the question I have to ask you. What are they going to do about ZBA? Are we going to, is somebody here going,
It's not required.
not required, but
No.
we can? I don't know whether anybody wanted it.
I don't know.
It is convenient, Mr. Chair, to have somebody with the planning commission background sitting,
On it.
yes.
It is, but it's
Yeah,
another
you're
night.
not just a liaison, you're.
No, yeah, you're a
member.
voting member.
You're a
yeah.
voting member.
And I don't think they've appointed anybody yet.
No. Second Monday, typically.
Is there anybody that would
They only
be,
meet if there's business, so it's not like,
is there anybody
you
would
can
be
think about it.
interested in sitting on it? Okay.
Chair, I would be willing to.
Okay.
You have to fill out the form and
Fill
go to
out
the
a
city
form
clerk's
for the
office. And
ZBA.
they'll put it before council then, if
It'll
you're
go
interested
before
in it.
council, and then
That
we-
form I can pick up at City Hall?
Yeah, or you can,
It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
online.
online.
It's online.
Online too, okay.
Then we would have somebody there, which,
And they would have another member, that would be good.
yeah, and they would have another member, and we can do that legally.
And Chairman, and Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Richardson would then get to give 2 reports.
Yeah, he would.
Be careful what you wish for. Mr. Brown.
And there's also the Parks and Rec if you're interested.
By the way.
Okay, let's run around the room. Mr. Martin Smith.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have something, and I made a bunch of notes, and I'll be very brief. I'll try not to linger on. But in light of this Robina project, we're trying to make, and I was, by the way, part of that.
You were?
We're trying to make a small part of Berkeley a little better. There's a lot of pieces of Berkeley that, little things can make a difference. It's our image, it's our perception to visitors and people who don't live here. Anything we can do to take a next step to make Berkeley a little more inviting is a good thing. In light of that, I had the unfortunate occasion several weeks ago to have business on Coolidge during rush hour traffic. And I will say, speaking about perception, that was the most miserable thing. I've been on a lot of roads. That is a horrible experience, rush hour traffic on Coolidge Road. And I'm going back to perception. Anybody who travels that's a bad first impression of Berkeley. It's a little more than a conduit to someplace else. And, the volumes, there's a great volume of traffic. Speeds are high, it's narrow, everybody's bouncing back and forth, the road's doing this. And then, the usual distracted drivers probably don't help much. So subsequent to that, the last few weeks, I've hopped on my bike and observed and even partaked with my vehicle back and forth, north and south, back and forth, seeing what happens. And it is a conduit to somewhere else. The vast majority of people are right through Berkeley. Now, it's part of the perception. We have a location, we have schools, neighborhoods. All these things are part of the perception of Berkeley. We're competing with other communities for residents and businesses. And I can go on and on. When we were doing 12 Mile, there was kind of a joke amongst people I know, and it said, the way 12 Mile was prior to how it was redeveloped, we said, welcome to Berkeley, gateway to somewhere else. And I think we resolved that on 12 Mile to a great degree. But we still have that on Coolidge. It's just a gateway to somewhere else. And is that what we want to be? And I know we had a discussion a couple of years ago, the 3 lanes, 4 lanes, blah, 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 going through all that. it is not a happy place to be in the evening. And also 12 Mile, in that discussion, we talked all about traffic calming and slowing things down, and we didn't even own the road. We had to fight with Oakland County. I believe it's Oakland County, right?
Yep.
Oakland County. And all things considered, it's a fairly successful thing, fairly successful project. In our discussions for Coolidge, I don't remember traffic calming coming up. The traffic engineers, we deal with them all the time. They're smart people. They got big computers and programs, but they're all about moving traffic. And traffic calming never came up. It was about shoving cars north and south. And I won't get into all my other rantings here, but I don't think that's what we want to be. I really don't. And we looked at the simulations, it bottled up at both ends, and it worked fine between 11 and 12 Mile Road. They said that several times. So dang it, let those people go elsewhere. And I don't think I don't want it to be a settled issue, and I want the discussion to keep going. Because it was I've lived here 30 years, and I avoid it at all costs, but every now and then I'm stuck on it, and it's a horrible perception of what this town has to offer. With all the other good things we're trying to do, it's a bad thing. The status quo is not a good place. So I'm done ranting. I just want us to not lose the conversation. Obviously, nothing much was done other than painting, but there's other options out there that I'm not sure we're fully explored, and I think we have to keep the discussion going. So I vented. I'm done. That's it. And Dean, good luck.
Mr. Richardson?
I won't reiterate everything Commissioner Smith said, no need for that, but I'll just confine myself to this comment. The city of Berkeley owns Coolidge Avenue. That's a city street. I strongly believe that we who live in Berkeley have the right to shape our community. We have the right to determine what our roads will be like, what they're used for, what the characteristics of our business neighborhoods as well as our residential neighborhoods will be like. Anytime a change is proposed anywhere or anything, there are going to be people that want to preserve the status quo for their own reasons. I respect everybody's opinion on the issue of Coolidge, but I do believe that it's up to the community to decide what kind of road it wants Coolidge to be. Not surrounding communities, not the county, not public agencies, the community of Berkeley. And as the body that's responsible for visioning this community and for planning this community in the first instance, I think our commission has a duty to keep the discussion going because changes are needed on Coolidge. That much is evident to me, and I support Commissioner Smith's remarks on that. The only other thing I've got to say is that as impatient as we all were after the flood, I feel that the city has done a fantastic job cleaning up after the flood. I'm not one of those disgruntled homeowners. I'm a very satisfied homeowner and citizen of this community. I think the DPW, Director Schuler, and the city administration is to be commended for their efforts. Thank you.
Ms. Pop?
I so agree with the conversation that Marty started with Coolidge. My shop is there and has been there for 10 and a half years, and watched everyone struggle with the traffic out there, and with the fact that it doesn't get the attention that the rest of the city does. According to the paperwork on the master plan, 12 Mile and Coolidge, 11 to 12, are part of the DDA's purview. Is that correct? Like I said last month, that they dropped the Coolidge priority from the agenda. And I'm not clear as to what I'm supposed to say. Am I just a recorder, picking up information and bringing it back here? And sharing information from this body to the DDA and vice versa? I don't know. It makes me so sad every time they talk about downtown, because they're talking about 12 Mile. It's rare that it's directed to Coolidge at all. And I have not seen a flower other than the ones that I bought last year. I haven't seen any banners, baskets, anything. And somehow Coolidge is getting done by the businesses. It's changing, and it's important that it does. The traffic scares me, and it has from day one. And I know that it's just a matter of time and somebody's gonna get nailed out there. And I hope I don't know them. Hope it's not me. We can make it reflective of what we want it to be. And we need to get it, chase that little critter, finally. We really do need to. It's scary, and it is part of the downtown. Only it's the red-headed stepchild, I think.
I think I'm good.
You're good.
Mr. Morrell?
I too would like to commend the city for the work during the flood. I think they did a great job, and I know that there are a lot of people out there who are frustrated, and I think a lot of that frustration stems from the fact that they've never been through it before. But for those of us who've lived here a while, just seemed like old times to me. So I do think that the city did a great job, and so that's all I got.
Ms. Shadle?
Agree. I think the highest accolades to the city and Public Works, and most importantly to me, I think the difference between how Berkley handled things and some of the surrounding communities was just the communication. I don't think anybody can say that Berkley did not communicate with its citizens. 2 or 3 postings, I think, one day about what was going on, and I think that's significant. And certainly there were folks upset and not sure where to turn or what to do. And I saw far more citizens out helping one another and in responding in a much more positive sense. And that's, I think the community at large is to be commended for that kind of response to
Mr. Dean Smith?
I would echo those same remarks, especially the communication from the city that came through the email and around the website. It was nice to be able to find out, yes, there will be trash trucks in your neighborhood. DPW was just incredible. The way they coordinated pickups. One morning, I saw one of the DPW guys driving up and down the street pulling paint cans. Rather than just leave them curbside, the city was proactive and said, hey, these are out there. Let's get them out of the trash mix before the other guys come through. Along those lines, my whole life, I wanted to be some rich guy that had an indoor swimming pool. I can tell you that it's vastly overrated. I never want one again.
Especially with the type of water it had in it.
Yeah, you should,
Smelled just
should
like
shock
Lake
your
St.
pool
Clair.
once in a while.
And the comment just about Coolidge, I-696, when it was completed, it redefined the Coolidge Highway, and the city of Berkeley hasn't caught up with, the change in traffic flows that came with 696. So if you look to the south of 696, what Oak Park did was they cleaned up Coolidge, Coolidge, still Coolidge at that point. It flows nicely, but when it comes up to 11 Mile Road, you've got an automatic choke point.
Yep.
And we need to figure out a way to manage traffic, and like Commissioner Martin Smith said, I have some people maybe opt to use another road and just reduce the total flow through there while allowing ambulance and emergency vehicle traffic to come through. Some can be embraced, some can be encouraged to go elsewhere. But that's it.
Ms. Vanson?
Just to give you an update, our building clerk, Stephanie Ramsey, has taken another job. Her last day was August 13th. I am interviewing in the next couple weeks, but it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Once school starts next week, I'll be here more full-time, but these last 2 weeks of August, I had childcare issues and so forth, and I'm very grateful to our licensing clerk who was able to increase her hours, but again, we've been less a person, and it's been a challenge, so anyway,
All right.
plugging away.
Thank you.
You don't have anything on the agenda for next month, no applications, so we can get back to some of the ordinance things that happened before that have been
Cindy?
off to the sidelines.
All right. Well,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one thing?
Sure.
How many people up here had problems with their water, basements? Everybody, or almost everybody? Mostly
Can
everybody?
you define problem? We had groundwater, no sewage.
that's all I had. was
But everybody
seepage.
had some kind of water in their
Had
basement.
seepage, that's all I
Yeah,
had.
okay. Some both, we had both, so, okay, just curious. So, I mean, everybody had it. And some that I find interesting, and this happened again, whatever year it was, that we had the huge blackout and everything, you really get to meet your neighbors.
That was in 2003.
Thank you. But every time there's a blackout or a disaster, whatever scale, and latrina as they call this one, you really, there's a T-shirt already. It's really amazing how, and I forgot who mentioned it, I'm sorry, how people help other people. And you're outside, I see the gaggles of neighbors talking, and a week from now, they'll be back inside watching TV and stuff. But it's really unfortunate, in a way, that it takes a mess to bring out the neighborhood. And that's one small little shining piece of a bad situation. But, so anyway, I've said enough tonight, so.
Well, I want to thank you for your comments on Coolidge, and.
It really annoyed me, in case you didn't notice.
Well, we had a conversation yesterday about it. I would agree that, somewhere Coolidge has been dropped for whatever reasons, and it's really, it could help Coolidge if we could do something about the traffic, and I believe if we could, it may help improve what's going on Coolidge and the
Absolutely,
business.
no doubt.
And we've said that several times, so somewhere in the back of our agendas, I guess maybe we need to see if we can resurrect something. I'm not sure how we can do it, but maybe we should. But that said, again, I think the city, it seemed like the first week things were a little slow in trying to figure out what to do with all the trash. But once they figured it out and they got moving, boy, it disappeared pretty rapidly. And I want to commend the city and the DPW for all their work. The DPW really, I think, really pulled everything out of their hats to get out there, and they worked, I think, 7 days a week on it to get help.
12-hour
clean it.
days.
Yeah, 12-hour days. So kudos to the city of Berkeley's DPW and everyone else who had to assist in getting rid of all this stuff. And now I guess tonight we have 100,000 residents without power.
Not Berkeley.
Not Berkeley. Thank you
Mr.
very
Chairman,
much.
the light at Griffith and 12 Mile was out.
Oh, was it?
And the theater block was dark when I came through tonight at 6 o'clock. So, yeah, we have
I just meant 100,000 residents do not live in Berkeley.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, that's
That
true.
was my
They don't all live in
record.
Berkeley.
They don't all live in Berkeley, but
I think that's a good thing.
they're scattered around. Thank you. We had a
Yes.
few bumps of power tonight, and I thought, uh-oh, here we go. But
Yep.
other than that, that's all we had. So hopefully, everything. So that's all I have. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morrell.
I've been far too quiet tonight. I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Murad. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? No.